Since 1992, Genesis House has been helping real people heal from addiction on their private recovery campus in beautiful Palm Beach County, Florida. Their family-owned program is accredited by the Joint Commission and offers detox and dual diagnosis treatment in a comfortable and confidential setting. At Genesis House, they focus on treating the underlying causes of addiction. Their comprehensive approach includes psychiatric care, individual and small group therapy, trauma healing techniques, and holistic care including yoga, massage, and animal-assisted therapy. After treatment, their clients enjoy the lifelong support of a nationwide network of Genesis House alumni. Call Genesis House today at 1-800-737-0933 to speak with someone who understands. Visit them on the web at www.genesishouse.net. It's time to start your journey to a long and successful recovery.
Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, presents the Friends in Recovery Saturday Shares, as they share their stories about the real issues of addiction, treatment, and recovery.
Thank you so much for having me. I did reach out to you right away. One, because I'm not a real fan of public speaking. So if I don't do it instantly, I'm going to say no. And two, I do a lot of marketing for my job. So anything that helps with that helps with my sobriety. But my name is Amber Harris. I'm an addict and an alcoholic. My original sobriety date was September 27th of 2013. I did have a really hard relapse. So my new clean date is February 14th of 20. So I'm coming up on 2 years. Like I said, I don't love public speaking, but what I do love is this program and the 12 steps. They've gave me a freedom that I've really never known, a connection with a higher power that I've never had, and a whole new life, not just my old life back, but a whole new life. And I took from so many people for so long. Whenever I'm asked to speak, I just say yes, whether I want to do it or not. So I'm going to tell you how it was like and what happened and what it's like now in a brief version. I'm in Richmond, Virginia. I'm assuming most of you all are in Florida. I've lived in Richmond or around Richmond my whole life. I've always lived in the state of Virginia. But growing up, both of my parents are addicts. My mom is still in active addiction, unfortunately, and I lost my father to this disease. So I definitely got it honestly. I just remember chaos, uncertainty, never quite knowing what I was going to walk into. I had a sister that was the perfect child. She never got in any trouble. She was 5 years older than me. She did well at anything she tried. We had different dads, and her dad was always there for her. And my first feeling of not being a part of was with my own family. So my parents divorced before I was born, and the only refuge I really had was with my dad. And he was an alcoholic and an addict, but to me, he was Superman. Anything I asked for, he got. Anything I needed emotionally, he was there for me. Got me my first dog, taught me how to play softball. He was huge on grades. So he was just enmeshed in my life. And I was with him every weekend. He'd take me back to school on Mondays. And if we weren't together, we talked every night. I still remember his home phone number at 41 years old. And he died suddenly at 32 years old of a cocaine overdose, and it shattered my world. I didn't think he was going to pass away. I got the call when he was in the hospital. My stepmom was 9 months pregnant with their child. And it's not often that a 32-year-old man just dies. I, of course, did not know he was addicted to any substances. I knew he drank a lot, but that was all that I knew. And we were in this little farm county outside of Richmond, and he had passed by the time we got to the hospital. And my life would never be the same. As I told you, he was my only security, and that was now gone. I had a lot of resentment for years. Why did he leave me? Why am I stuck with this woman? And I will say my mom did the best she could with what she had and her addiction at the time. She grew up in an addicted household. So if you don't fix it, it just keeps going like a snowball. And she's been married 5 times. By the time I moved out at 16 years old, we had moved over 20 times. The only thing that saved me was going to a private school, so I didn't have to keep switching schools, but I also felt like an outsider there. All the other kids had tons of money. We did it, really small classes. My life was in constant turmoil. Theirs was like something from the Cosbys. So it was, again, I didn't feel like I belonged. Why was I there? But when I look back at it, it really did offer me some security because it was continuous. I didn't have to switch schools all the time. So my mom says I cried myself to sleep every night for a year, and I never received any help. I just kept going. Because he was so big on grades, I went right back to school and tried to do what I thought was right to make him proud. But the more I shoved those feelings down, the more they exploded and just took over my life. I was so angry for so many years. I would fight anyone. If you told me to go right, I was going to go left. I was taking advanced classes, and in 10th grade, after a lot of begging, my mom let me switch to public school. And you can imagine going from an all-girls private school to a public school with over 2,000 kids. I mean, the end of 10th grade, they called my mom and told her I had only been at school for 32 days the whole year. And so I failed the whole grade. It was like, woohoo, I don't have to turn in a note for being sick. I'm going to do everything I want to do. And that's what I did. And it wasn't for lack of knowledge, it's because I just didn't want to go. So I started getting in a lot of trouble. I started experimenting with drugs and alcohol. I had my first drink at 13. I started smoking pot not long after, and started using harder drugs by 14. By 16, I moved out on my own, and I have 3 children now, and one of them just turned 17, and I cannot imagine sending her out into the world by herself. But I was really mature in some ways and super immature in other ways. And I made it work. I worked full time. I went to school at night. I got put out of every county school in my area for skipping. And I went to this school for bad kids, and I graduated on time. But my problems wouldn't stop. I got pulled for a DUI when I was 16. My mom said every time the phone would ring past 2 a.m., she knew it was either a cop or someone calling for me. I put that woman through hell, and I still apologize for it. But I just was so empty, void of any feelings, and angry is the best way that I can describe it. And I would do anything to not feel the way that I felt on the inside. My sponsor's watching, and I thank you, Mary. And she has COVID and is not feeling well, but she has been just incredible for me, paramount in my recovery. And we talk about a lot, everyone uses or drinks for their own reason. And mine was, I wanted someone to save me from myself, from all my problems. I wanted someone to ride me, take me and put me in a different life and fix everything. And of course, that's just not going to happen. But I kept looking for it. So a reoccurring thing in my life was, I was so terrified of being like my mother and going from man to man. I wouldn't go from man to man. I'd keep the same bum for 10, 12 years and give him a couple kids and a house and be miserable with him and be mistreated, because when you are sick, you only attract other sick people. And that's what I did. So by 19, I had my first daughter. I thought I had the flu and went to patient first. They told me I was pregnant. And for a while, she changed my life enough that I could keep it all together. I wanted better for her. I wanted so much more for my kids than I had in my childhood. But I had never had the proper help. I had no idea how to be a mother. And it's me and her dad, who's 2 years older than me. So a 19 and 21-year-olds trying to do the best they could. But I went to nursing school. We'd get up 4 a.m. every morning, and I'd get her ready and there was a daycare at the hospital, and go do my clinicals. And I finished with a 4.0. It's never been about not being able to do it. It's just the drive and whether or not I wanted to do something to make my life better. A common theme for me also is self-sabotage. I was afraid of failing, but I was petrified of succeeding, because then you're going to expect so much more from me. So I started practicing nursing. I worked on a med surg floor in a hospital for about 5 years. Life is continuing. I'm still drinking a lot and using some other substances. I've always had an incredibly addictive personality. Even take the drugs and alcohol away, I'm going to shop. I'm going to abuse something. It's just the way that my body is set up. So I have to work really hard on that. But then at 24, I got pregnant with my second daughter and was not expecting her, was actually on birth control at the time. And once I had her, I went right back to work at the hospital. I was working overnight shifts on the weekend. I'd do 312s on the weekend so I could be home with my kids all week. And I started having this really severe knee pain. And I was trying to work out a lot to get my body back in shape after carrying a child, and my knee kept swelling. And I'd go to this ortho doc and he'd drain the fluid, and the next day the swelling would be right back. So we went round and round, and finally he said, I'm going to send this serum, your fluid, to the lab and see what it says. Well, it had white blood cells, crystals, all kinds of stuff. So I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. I was sent to see a rheumatologist, and it made sense. And I don't know a lot of my family history because my mom didn't know her father, and my dad grew up with adoptive parents as well. So I went to the rheumatologist at 24, and they gave me 90 of a certain pill. And by the end of that bottle, I was totally addicted to them. 1 turned into 2, 2 turned into 4, 4 turned into 6. And that started a 10, 12-year run of complete and utter misery. It's funny when I think back. It's like when you first find whatever it is that you're addicted to, whatever that substance is, it's like a savior, right? It gave me energy. It helped my depression. It made all my problems go away, or so I thought. And then you need more and more. And then it's like one day it just turns on you and it makes everything 10 times worse. And now I'm sick without it. So I was either over sedated from taking too much or sick from not having it. And because I was a nurse and I knew my primary care doctor I had worked with at the hospital, I knew exactly what to say to manipulate them. And they know that I'm a healthcare worker, so they don't think that I'm lying. It would never be that you could give me enough. You could write me every prescription behind the CVS, and I'm going to say I'm still in pain. And that's exactly what I did. A lot of trouble during this time. I've now had a third daughter. I'm in my 30s. I've gone back to school to get my bachelor's. I have a 4.0 in school, and I'm using in the bathroom every day. No one knew for years. They knew something was up with me, but not what. I'm wearing long sleeve shirts in the summertime. I've changed the method that I use. I'm hanging around people I would never spend time with. I keep drawing lines in the sand, crossing them, drawing another line, crossing it. I was thinking tonight, I try to never really think about what I'm going to say when I share, because I just pray about it and go. But, all the madness that I put my children through, they saw me buy and use. They saw me get so drunk, I didn't know who I was. My lip was busted from a guy that I was dating in front of my 7-year-old at the time, which just terrified her. I've been shot at. Just like a vehicle was stolen from me. It was constant drama. And I craved that. And I didn't realize that until I stepped out of it. But that's all I'd ever known, even from my own childhood. So finally, I don't know, I was probably in my late 30s, 35, 36. And I went to my doctor in tears and I said, look, I have a serious problem. You're prescribing me all this stuff. By this time, this guy's giving me over 300 pills a month for pain and some patches as well, amongst many other things. And the pharmacist is looking like, what the hell? Are you dying? Why do you need all this stuff when I'm going to pick it up? And I wouldn't even leave. I'd go into the bathroom at the pharmacist to use before I even left. And no one ever questioned me. Um, so I my life is falling apart at about 2012, 2013. I self-admitted for treatment. I thought I was ready to get clean, but I really did it just to save my marriage. My husband was in the military and he was like, look, I can't watch this anymore. You're destroying yourself in front of our kids. You're going to die. You stopped breathing several times during the night. I had overdosed multiple times. So I self-admitted for treatment, but I clearly was not ready. And I came home from there, started using immediately again and hanging back out with the same people. We lost our townhome. I had self-admitted, and the doctor that was there I knew, and she reported me to the Board of Nursing. So my nursing license was being suspended, and I had to do all this monitoring with them that I was not willing to do. My husband left. I had to send my kids, my two younger with their dad, and my two older with their dad, and my baby with her dad. And my vehicle was repossessed all in like a month. I literally lost everything. And I remember sitting in that townhouse by myself, just sobbing. It got to the point the months before I'd stopped even opening my bills. I mean, I made the dealers around me just wealthy, rich, stupid rich. When I think of all the money I've spent, it just makes my stomach churn. But I didn't know what to do. And all I could think to stop the pain was to use. It's just like this cycle, right? You're like a rat on a roll and you just can't get off. You do terrible things, so you feel guilty. So you want to use again to not feel it. And you just keep going and keep going. And I didn't think there was a way to come out of that. This is what I've seen my whole life. I felt like this was my destiny. This is as good as it's going to get. But something in me, I don't know why, I just knew that I was going to die. So I went to the CSB in my county near the city of Richmond, and I asked if she would send me to treatment. And they did. They sent me the next day. And I was so desperate that I was willing to do anything that they said. And I've never been like that. It's always been my way or the highway. I don't care what you say. I'm going to do it my way. I mean, just keep banging my head against the wall 1,000 times and, doing it wrong. So I went to this 30-day treatment center, and the first night I was there, I was sick as hell, but this woman came from Richmond. I was in a different town about 45 minutes away. And she got up and shared, and she was beautiful and honest. And she was talking about how when her daughter was old enough to reach the counter, she would be passed out from drinking and using, and her daughter would have to fix her own peanut butter and jelly because she was just too drunk to take care of her. And I couldn't believe this woman was saying these things out loud, but I could relate to everything she said. And in that moment, I had just a little bit of hope. Like, if she could do it, maybe I can too. So they tried to send me home after 20 days because my insurance cut off. I begged for them to let me stay, and they did. I stayed the full 30 days. I had an incredible counselor there who I connected with like I had never connected with anyone before. And I told the truth. And I asked that woman if she would sponsor me, and she said, call me every day until you get back home, and then I'll pick you up when you arrive home, and I'll take you to a meeting. And that's what I did. And she told me later, Amber, you are so sick. I didn't know if I could help you, and I didn't know if I would ever hear from you again. But anyways, I still see her, and I'm grateful for her help. When I left, they told me I needed to go to a women's recovery house. And at first I said, I am not going to live with a bunch of other women. I'm going right back where I was. And my counselor said, well, okay, well, you can do that. You're going to be using within a week. So I said, all right, I'll go. Send me wherever. So I pull up to this women's recovery house. I didn't know a soul there, and I lived there for a year. And I went to meetings, and I fellowshipped with other women. I learned how to be a mother. My kids came over every weekend and stayed with me. And my kids have grown up in recovery now. My mom would often ask me, why do you take them to meetings with you? And the only thing I can say is they saw every bad thing that I did while using. Why would I not let them see the good part of recovery? right? They've seen my life change. They know my sponsor. They know my whole network in recovery. As I've healed, they've healed, literally. And we're all still in therapy together, both together and separate, and will continue to be. But as I have healed, they have healed. And that's nothing but God. I was clean almost 2 years when I met a guy, same old story, and I relapsed. He was struggling in his own sobriety, and within a month I relapsed. And I could not get back. I could not stop using again. So I was on MAT for a couple of years, and I took myself off of that at home. And it was hell. I was sick for 30 days. I lost a bunch of weight. I couldn't do anything but lay around and feel terrible. But I don't know. I don't know why, and I don't know how. I don't know why some of us get it and some of us don't. And we have to bury our friends and the people that we love. I don't know why it works for some people and why it doesn't. I don't know why this time is different. And it's nothing really miraculous that I'm doing. I just tried to focus on the next 24 hours and doing the next right thing. And it sounds so hokey, but that's exactly what I do, right? I have a home group. I have a sponsor. We work together once a week. I have women that are in recovery call me. About a month ago, I shared it in front of about 100 people at my home group. I was terrified, but I did it. I'm super involved in my daughter's life. Now they are 11, 17, and 22. And I'm going to tell you what, these girls have been through hell, but they're incredible. I'm telling you, kids are resilient, and they don't talk about the stuff that I used to do. They talk about, we're so proud of you, Mom. It is incredible to see how much you've changed. My baby girl started middle school this year, and she makes straight A's and has a great group of friends. My 17-year-old is a junior in high school, and she just got a full scholarship offer to the U.S. Naval Academy. So she'll be going there for basketball at no charge. She's in Georgia right now playing. And my oldest girl is about to graduate with her bachelor's in biology from VCU and go to dental school. I mean, like, these kids are crushing it, and they've been through hell, and it makes me so proud. I wish I could do everything different again, but I can't. And I'm really proud of our story and how we have survived together. Literally, I've been through hell and back. If the odds were fair, I would have been dead. When I went to treatment when I wanted to go in 2013, and Doc said, Amber, when I draw your blood, what's going to be in there? And I said, everything. And he laughed and said, what do you mean everything? And I said, everything. And he came back with the results and said, kid, I don't know how you're alive. You were literally positive for everything. And all I know, the only thing that kept me alive was my tolerance was so high. But, you know, I do special things, like for Christmas, my daughter and I went with my home group and we handed out gloves and scarves and hats to the homeless. And I really let her get involved and go with the people so she can talk to them and see how other people live. Our kids need to know how lucky they are and how blessed they are that other people don't live like we do. I share the message with anyone that will listen. I don't ever hide my recovery. I no longer practice nursing. I can go to the board of nursing at any time and say, I'm ready. I've talked to them. The last time I went in front of them, I was able to be honest and free, but I'm not ready to pass narcotics anywhere. And I don't know if I'll ever be. And, you know, as a nurse, I worked in hospitals, jails, prisons, methadone clinics, a lot of psych work. And I took care of people just like me. And working on this side of things, I now work for a therapist that owns her own practice. She's in recovery, and she specializes in trauma, addictions, and co-occurring disorders. And I love what I do now. I'm literally able to make a difference in people's lives. I hold groups. We have a monitoring program for people new to recovery or people that have had multiple relapses. And I get to see them before they go to treatment, when they come home, and work with them for months after. I hook them up with sponsors. I'll take them to meetings. I check on them often. And that gives me, it probably does more for me than it does for them. On Friday nights, I take a meeting into a treatment center in Richmond. And sometimes every person in the building is nodding and no one's listening to a damn thing I'm saying. And I don't care because it helps me. It takes me back. I don't ever want to forget how I used to treat my body and how my life was so invaluable to me. I have gone back. I got my peer recovery specialist certification, and I've been working with my boss at my job since August. I just got accepted. A local community, VCU, is having a recovery leadership program that's a year long, and I put in an application for that and got accepted to that. You know, I have a home, our kids are comfortable, and I'm clean. And really just being alive and clean is enough for me. Everything beyond that is just extra, right? I've been homeless. I've had nothing. I have been so desperate to stop using that I would have done anything and been anyone else just to solve my own problem. And now I have a solution. And I thank God for second and third chances. And I know if a dope fiend like me can change, then anyone can. And I think that's all I got. Thank y'all so much for letting me share.
That concludes this episode of Friends in Recovery Saturday Shares.